For you,
It
Jason.
will be. It will be. So thank you so much for joining us today. We've got Kelly here from ActivePipe. And so she's going to be talking through some of the different email campaigns and templates that they can craft and create to kind of help support your business. And so I'm going to let Kelly speak to that a little bit more, and she'll take it from here.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen, and maybe theoretically. And will you guys let me know when you can see my screen?
We can see your screen.
Excellent. Okay. Let me press play. We won't be in this deck for very long, but I just want to make sure. You're seeing not the presenter view, correct?
Yes. Okay. We're seeing
the slide deck.
Okay. Yeah. I have multiple screens, so sometimes I have to check to make sure that it doesn't swap the presenter view.
Oh yeah, we do not see your speaker notes.
You can see the speaker notes?
We cannot.
Okay, cool. All right, so just like refresh back, ActivePipe is an email marketing tool designed to make it really easy for you to deliver the right content at the right time to everyone in your sphere, whether that's prospects, leads, whatever, wherever you're getting that information into your database. We'll walk through how you can set up things within this tool to basically put people on drip and have the content tailored to the interests and the behavior of those specific contacts. So just at a top level, high level, the open rates in ActivePipe tend to be 1.5 times higher than the industry average. The click-through rate is 2 times higher than the industry average. Click to open is 1.4 times higher than the industry average, and it's 100% personalized to the contact. Again, the more information you have on your database and your back-end systems going into this, the better and better the content can be tailored to what's most important to the specific contact. So with that, just kind of at an overview level, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the product and kind of walk through some of the different things that you can do with it, how it works, so that you get a good idea of how you can plug this into your business back-end mix and leverage it. All right, so you guys can still see my screen, right? Is this too tiny? Should I make it bigger?
Definitely bigger. Thank you.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It just has a very large screen, so I can never tell exactly how it looks for other people. So when you access ActivePipe for Radius, it's actually through whatever your backend tool is. I don't know the name of it. Jess, do you guys have like a hub or an intranet?
We have a dashboard.
Dashboard, there you go. So when you log into Moxie, you actually land in Moxie Present first, and then you click to ActivePipe. It SSOs you in. So those tools are connected. You only log in the one time, and then you're set in the product. When you land in product, this is what it looks like. You land on a dashboard that begins to show you what open houses are coming, what properties and links your contacts have clicked on. Based on who's clicking on things, they'll start to show up as high value or highly interactive, and properties that different users click on will show up here as your popular properties. This as a specific Radius agent I pulled up just so that we were looking at a live person. She hasn't done much in the last month, so we don't necessarily have a ton of data there. I can switch us over to a different account if we want, but you still get the idea of what it looks like, even though this is where we are. So again, like this is your dashboard. This is where you land. This is where you see those top level insights. And then from there, you have your email builder, your campaign setup, your contacts, your tags, and your audiences. Jason, just based on what you said before we got started, this I feel like is going to be very important for you. So you mentioned Asana, you mentioned Squarespace, you mentioned sort of process about your backend. This is where those tags or those labelings that you're using throughout your business process go into, so that you can tie that behavior to specific campaigns and put those automations in place. So we'll walk through like a scenario in that way by creating an email, importing contacts or syncing with an integration for a CRM, and then turning on the campaigns so that any contacts going forward that are tagged that way will receive that same information. So I'll start
What's the difference between an email and a campaign?
So an email is the content that you're sending to the contact. A campaign is the like delivery tool. So one of the best ways to think about the difference there is like a post, like the post office, right? So the email is the actual letter that you're sending, whereas the campaign is the mailman in his little truck that's driving it to the place where it needs to go.
So to actually send stuff to your
e-
database, you would want to
everything,
create an email and then set up a campaign using that email.
yeah, and you can,
Okay.
and we'll walk through the two different ways to do it. You do have like a send now function within the email that still puts it in campaign. So anytime you want to see past sent stuff, it's always going to be in the campaign section where you see that. And then campaigns also allows you to set up cadences, like if you want something to happen once a week or once a month, whatever that is, or if you're picking up,
Like a new buyer
exactly.
workflow, like an 8x8. Like I want to hit them 8
Ex-
times in 8 days. So I have a
eh,
campaign built for that.
Exactly. Or,
Cool.
8x8 if it's weekly, depending on what your cadence is. If it's a seller, it tends to be weekly, buyer tends to be daily, just kind of depending on who you're targeting.
Awesome.
So within ActivePipe, the way this works for Radius is the branding is specific to you. So as long as you've made those branding choices and we've gotten them, that your pieces are set up with your brand already. Since I'm in Sandra's account, it's going to show her branding. And I'll just pick this canvas template, but you do have additional templates already built out that just have those basic pieces that you can customize or you can just start using. So you've got just sold, price changes, open houses, things like that. Or you can pick up the canvas, which is basically our starting point for any email. So I'll just call it an example email, so that's what it is. You have your subject line, just like you do in most email builders. That's very much the same. And then the components that you work with are these blocks over on this end, on the right-hand side. This is what you pull in for content. And I will cover a couple of them specifically. Obviously, image is image, text is text. Those are pretty self-explanatory, but the ones that I'll go a little bit more in depth in for you are property, because you've got some cool functionality there. So if I grab one of these property blocks here, there's different layouts. You can do a grid, which is multiple properties. I'll show you what that looks like. You can specify how many properties show in that grid. And this is where we get to turn on some of that like dynamic behavior. So we can change this from static to dynamic, and we can define how those properties are pulled in automatically. So we can specify things like property type, whether it's every single type of property or whether we're focusing on just residential. We can specify status, whether we're showing, active, pending, sold, whatever it may be. We can also focus on whether it's for sale or for lease. And then the other option that gets much more specific to the contact is this tool called Smart Match. So if you turn Smart Match on rather than making any of those other choices, this will allow the system to select the properties from the MLS specifically based off of the information in the system about the contact. So in this instance, you want to have as much information about the contact going into here, or if you know something general, like it's this area, zip code, it's this city, it's this number of bedrooms, and then match it according to the contact, we can specify that as well. So if I turn this on right here and I say, only continue to do this with contacts that have interacted in the last week, this then tailors the content to them based on how interactive they're being with the the property. Or if I just leave smart match on, it's just pulling the data out of the contact record. So as the contact clicks on properties and as you know more information about these potential prospects and you plug it into the system, it gets better and better and better at serving the right properties to them at the right time. I'm just going to use zip code as an example for this, though, just because it's a little bit easier to show.
ActivePipe is automatically connected to my MLS. So like when we request an ActivePipe account, we set up an MLS for each account, and then that's what properties would pull in here. Is that right?
Exactly. So the MLS that's requested for you as an agent, like that's the MLS that's connected inside of ActivePipe. So if that's one particular MLS, great. If it ends up being more than one based on what your area is and what's set up, then it's, multiple MLSs. Does depend a little bit on where you are.
Cool. If I want to control which listings show, can I do that? Or will it just choose what it thinks are the best ones?
When it's set dynamic and to use smart match, it specifically will choose the properties for you. And if no properties match for that particular contact, they won't end up getting that email. So that's really useful when you have like a buyer who's like hyper particular and they only want certain properties in a very specific zip code that also are above a certain price point. It's also with this property block, you can use it static instead of dynamic. So what that means is if I come out here and I turn this off, I do have the ability to click the house on every single one of these blocks and search for a specific property and add that one specifically. So let's say like, that there's these 4 properties that you want to feature in this specific area. You could go in and you could select those 4 properties.
That's what I was looking for. Cool.
Yep. Yeah. So it's either or. You can be as specific and curated about what you're sending out in that email as you want. That's obviously a little bit higher touch because you're choosing it, or you can turn on smart match and let the system select the properties for you so that it's a little bit more automated. You also can control how many total properties show in this block. So it could be 4, it could be 6, it could be 2. You get to decide. And you can choose that right in here. So I could say 4, I could say 2, the even numbers if you're using the grid because it's a grid. But there you go.
I was thinking this would be good for if I'm doing like a monthly newsletter to my database, then I could have like just sold and then have my solds, and then I could have a coming soon, and I could have, or I could say on the market now and have like the grid of my properties that are on the market right now.
Absolutely. That's a great example of how you could use this. A newsletter that's featuring your just solds or your newly listeds. That's a great way to do it. And you can, again, like you can specify the properties. You also can just define them, right? So if I come in here and I say, like, this is my MLS, I don't necessarily want to match to the agent, but maybe I only want to show, properties that are here and not anywhere else on the page. If I'm using some of those feeding things, then I do have that ability to sort of like dial in the settings specifically for.
Yeah, I saw that setting right though for exclude properties under offer. And if I'm showing my solds, I would have to unselect that.
Correct. Yeah. And the other thing you have in here as an option though is you can choose what information it shows for the property. So if it shows the address, if it shows the price, if it shows the list button, you can add a bunch of different combinations of information here. So you could do address, current price, and amenities and get rid of those separate blocks. It changes the look a little bit. So just depending on what it is that's important to you to show, you have control over that. And what's cool when you build out these emails is, you can save it and you can use the same one over and over again, either by duplicating it if you're manually picking the properties, or if you've set one of those dynamic fields for it to pull the properties for you, then you can just use the same email and the information will be updated in real time based on what's on the market at the time. You also have other ways of displaying properties. So you don't just have to use a grid. You could use a list if you like that look, same functionality in terms of static or dynamic. You can select the properties or you can set the criteria. And you can also feature like one property more boldly as a single featured property. That probably works best when you have like a new property coming out. A lot of times, it's not necessarily 5 properties that you have listed at the same time, right? You might have 1 or 2 that you want to call out, and this is a great way to do that. Again, you can do this directly by clicking that little house icon and selecting the specific property. Again, this is connected to your MLS, so you can search for it by the MLS ID number or the address, or filter it by the different criteria. Or you can set it, again, dynamically if you want the property that shows there to be tailored specifically to the contact records preferences. Man, that's a mouthful. All right. You also have this great block here, which is real estate content. Similar to the property content, you do have a lot of options in terms of what's selected, and dynamically or directly. So again, you'll see you've got this static versus dynamic option. With static, you click this little orange article bit, and it gives you access to this full library of content and information. So, if it's a newsletter you're doing, you don't necessarily have to write a bunch of articles in order to get that newsletter populated with the information to send it out. You have a massive library of content that's already been written specifically for first-time home buying, downsizing, renovating, investing, all of those different personas that you're dealing with in terms of your sphere and your database. And you can search through this content and select something specific. So just because the first day of spring is yesterday, I'll pull in this article that is related timing-wise to spring. But again, you can come up here and you can toggle this to dynamic instead of static, and you can define. So if you want to create a newsletter that is specifically for the people that you tag as investors or investing, you could say, okay, serve up an article related to investing and set this email to go out once a week. You don't have to come in and pick the article every single time. It's going to pick the article for you, and it's going to adjust it each week for the contacts that you're sending that piece to. So that's one of those ways that we can really set this up to change dynamically and be automated, and really you set it up that first time the way you want, and it keeps going and drips out different information to keep your database engaged. It's pretty cool. You can also edit like directly within this block. So like once I make a selection of an article, I can say, okay, well, maybe I don't want that much of it showing. I can take out some of the text. I can make some of those little adjustments so that it looks perfect when it goes to send. That just depends on how specific you like to be when you're creating your newsletters. You also can pull in videos from Vimeo or YouTube. So if I drop this one in there, you just need the video link. You can paste it in, and it'll pull the frame in with a link that clicks automatically. I don't have a video link copied and pasted at the ready, but let me grab one real quick just so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so I've got a YouTube video link here. I'm just going to paste that YouTube link in there. It's going to grab the video. I can select it, and then it pops it in just like that. Shows that frame of the video and the play button. When this email sends, if someone clicks on it, it launches the video and plays it for them. So pretty quick and easy to pull videos in, which is, like the best possible thing to use in email newsletters. You can also pull in RSS from any source that you use. So I know that you mentioned, Jason, that you're setting up a website. If your website has a blog aspect to it, and that blog content that you're doing is in an RSS feed, you are able to pull that in so it can feed the articles directly into your newsletter, which is great. And you don't have to build it in two places, right? It just pulls everything over for you. And again, same as the property panels and the real estate content, you can select directly. You would add that feed link in here and it would pull all of the articles over. Let me see if I can grab an RSS link really quick. Let's see, here we go. Oh, I don't necessarily think you would want to use these articles, but this should be a feed. Oh, that one's, that's a paywall one. So hold on, let me grab a different one. I don't know if this one has an RSS, but I'm going to try it. Okay, cool. So
That's a good caveat though. Like if you want to pull something from Inman or something that requires a membership, then your audience won't be able to view the article.
Yeah, if it's behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, like Keeping Current Matters, for example, like if you pay for their subscription, they give you like a feed that's branded to you. So if you were to use that link, then
That's nice.
then people would land on the content branded to you within their system. This one, I think, is their one that's just like available publicly, because some of them they make available publicly. But we could pull in that RSS link, and then that pulls in the image, the headline, and a little summary. So again, if you have a website and you've got blog content that you're posting on there as part of your, larger marketing strategy, you're able to add that and pull it in, so you don't have to individually upload images and add content and copy and paste. And I know it gets really chaotic when you're trying to do all of those things. So this just makes that a little bit easier. And then again, you have the same option of being static or dynamic. So static is great if you want highly curated content that you're hands-on with. Dynamic is fantastic if you want to let the system choose the article for you based on what the contact is interacting with. And that's really where you get into the power of the automation, is when you're able to turn that on because you have data about your contacts in the system. Then it can start selecting the right articles to serve to them to push their engagement up and turn them into a buyer or a seller that's closing a deal for you. Okay, so that's most of the components. You can pull in social links as well. And then we've got all of like the basic things like buttons. So if there's someplace you want to direct to as a call to action, maybe it's just a link to your website or something like that, you can do that with those elements. And again, these other ones I feel are more self-explanatory, but I'll pull in one of them just so that you can see what it looks like. Text obviously is text. When you want to add text, you get this nice little WYSIWYG builder. You can fill this text box with any text you would like to. And then you can, just like you can in any WYSIWYG builder, you can link specific URLs. Jason, what's your website's URL going to be?
I think it's clutchproperty.com.
Yeah, sorry, it's clutchproperty.com.
Okay, yeah, so you could add a link into that there. And you do have some different settings already in terms of like header stylings and fine print. So if you want to adjust things, you can as needed. Pretty easy, straightforward tool right there. These buttons allow you to move blocks up or down. So if you put something in the wrong place, you can easily rearrange. And this is duplicate. So say you build a body of text and you want to do something similar somewhere else, you can duplicate it. And that's available on pretty much every single one of these blocks. You can do that. So let's say we built this. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, is there a way to keep it static where you can keep like your social profile down at the bottom so you're not recreating it every time?
Well, you do have a footer that happens every single time that does include social links. So as long as social links are updated in your profile, those will always feed. So you shouldn't have to add those every time. But if you wanted to put them in a different place as like an additional call to action, you could. And then let me show you this real quick. So if I save this email, give it a subject line, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. If I come back to my emails, that's right there. If you've customized it a lot, right? So you built out a newsletter the way that you want, you can always just come in here and hit duplicate for the next time you want to do that newsletter. And then you don't have to re-pull everything over. You just make your changes and you're good to go. The other thing that you can do when you're building the email is if, let's say it's an announcement, right? You're doing an announcement, you're running short on time, and you want to send out what you've built really, really quickly. You do have this option up here that's called share, where we can do a couple different things. We can send it directly to social media. We can copy a link that we've been, maybe using some other tool. Or we can do quick send. Quick send allows us to quickly select who we want to send it to and send immediately or set the time. So this essentially builds that one-time quick send campaign without you having to go anywhere else, which makes it really fast. But again, like I said, anything that you send ends up showing in that campaign area. So if I jump over back to my emails and I look at my campaigns, if I had sent that, it would show up here with the name of the email. In this case, it would have been example email, and it would say quick send on it, and it would show you when it was sent, the date and time there. If you set up like a newsletter, which I think is a perfect example of something you might do, you might want to have that send out, every Thursday at 8 o'clock or every Friday at 2 p.m. or whatever it is. When you build your campaign, you're able to tell it, yes, I want this to send out every single week. Whoa, I can spell, I promise. We could say send to everybody. We could say trigger is this specific date and time. And if we were to say repeat this schedule, we would select like every week, do the same thing every week. And again, if we had set those like real estate content and property panels dynamically, it's going to change that content every single week based on what matches that criteria, and it'll send it out. So that's really where we get into the automation and the scale there of like, okay, well, this is my buyer update email, or this is my weekly newsletter update email, and it's going to show my new listings and my just solds every single week, or every single month, whatever the cadence is that makes sense for you. And then you would select the specific email that goes along with that. So I'd say send email. I would specify that email out of all of your emails that are in there. Oh, I went right past it. There it is. Example email. And then you would save and activate. Now, I'm not going to save and activate this because I don't actually want this to send to anybody, but you would ordinarily save and activate it. Once you save it and activate it and it starts running, then you're able to click on the campaign itself and you can see the reporting of it. So if I click on this and I go view report, then I'll see, okay, this is when it's sent. This is how many people looked at it. This is how many total contacts it was sent to. 50% viewed it, 3.46% clicked on it. And these are the links that they clicked on and interacted with. So that's where you start to see which properties people are interacting with. And that saves specifically to the contact record. You're then able to see, okay, if I look at this contact record, I can see their whole history of like, this is what they've viewed, this is what they've clicked on, this is what they're tagged as. And then if they have property interactions, it starts to plot those properties on a map. So you would see property, whatever, which is really great if you're trying to gauge whether or not someone's like looking in a particular area, or when you start to see that a contact is clicking on a lot more properties. That's usually a really good indication that they're warming up, and they might be better to reach out to because they might actually want to buy or sell in the nearer future. Yeah, so if we look at all the contacts section here, this shows every single contact that's in the system, what their subscription status is, and then it does have this running timeline of behavior. So like who's doing what, when, and whether they're clicking or subscribing or whatever it is.
I think we're low on time, but I wanted to ask about Follow Up Boss because a lot of our agents have Follow Up Boss connections. How do we control that integration?
So when we set up ActivePipe for Radius agents, one of the questions we do ask is if there's a CRM integration. And if it is for something like Follow Up Boss, we enable that integration on the back end. And then there's I believe with Follow Up Boss, it's an API key that gets plugged in to connect. As long as the CRM is one we integrate with, we're able to turn that on so that your contacts from that system flow into ActivePipe. And the other information that flows between most, not all, but most CRMs we're integrated with are tags. Sometimes in CRMs, those are called labels or groups. It just depends on the specific tool, but those all translate over as tags. So if contacts are added in that system, however they're added, whatever information you've put in your source of truth in the CRM flows over, and things like tags can start to trigger these different campaigns and flows and journeys that we have set up for you, and that you have turned on. The other thing that I didn't mention, but it's kind of related to all of this, is you do also have pre-built journeys. So we talked about building emails and sort of customizing a journey based on like what your business flow is, but you do also have pre-built campaigns. So you have buyer campaigns, seller campaigns, and just general campaigns. So if you know you have potential buyers, you're able to grab the potential buyer campaign, and you're able to specify whether, like, say it's a buyer tag that triggers it. And if the tag is changed, and then as you've got contacts flowing in with that tag, it's automatically going to start this drip of these different emails over the course of several months to keep them engaged and keep that sort of auto marketing happening for you.
Can I go back to Follow Up Boss for a second?
Yeah.
If I didn't get it set up during onboarding, then would I contact ActivePipe support or
Yes.
Radius support?
ActivePipe support. You can email.
And that's that help icon in the bottom?
Exactly. Yep. It's this little guy down here, or you can email support@activepipe.com, and they'll turn that on for you and get it set up.
So I assume same, like if we're having issues where our contacts are tagged in Follow Up Boss, but they're not coming over the way we would expect, then I would contact ActivePipe support.
Exactly. Yeah. Anytime you run into something unexpected that you need help with, have a question on, that is your best tool. You do also have the knowledge base. So if I come back over here, you do also have the Knowledge Center, which has like short videos, walkthroughs, explanations, details on all those different integrations. You can always go there. If you're one of those people that's like, I can do this myself, that's great resource for you. But if it's something like, oh, I didn't say I had Follow Up Boss and now I do, I want to set it up, then you definitely need to email support or use that help button to make that happen. What other questions do you guys have?
Jason, do you have any questions? You've got Kelly on the line, so anything she can.
So for
she can do?
ActivePipe, you guys are more focused on just, connecting the properties and getting better details on the client, right? So how do you guys separate yourself from the CRM aspect of automated emails?
So I mean, it does depend, I guess, on what you're using for your CRM. Because ActivePipe is not a CRM. It's very specifically an email marketing tool that's meant to keep email marketing and emails continuously dripping out to your contacts to keep them engaged, and then fine tune the content based on how they behave. So like in the instance of like Follow Up Boss, for example, tags, unsubscribes, things like that within that CRM flow over to ActivePipe and vice versa. Like if someone unsubscribes in ActivePipe, you'll see that information in Close or Follow Up Boss or whatever it is. So that no matter where they're interacting with you within your marketing ecosystem and your business flow, you still have that information. It's really supplemental just to make sure that you're getting like that consistency and that automated touch points happening, and anything that curates it more specifically to their interests, which is where those things like Smart Match come into play.
Got it.
The way I would think about it is you should use your CRM for smart one-to-one emails where you're grabbing, essentially you're doing a mail merge of information from your database and sending out plain text emails to your contacts and logging emails that way. So one-off emails and then like smart mass emails. And then ActivePipe would be for your marketing, your newsletters, your just sold stuff, the monthly newsletter, really. And then like if you're posting blogs to drive traffic to your website.
Exactly.
Got it. And then do you guys integrate with anything? Because I know you guys have that schedule send on there. Do you guys integrate with anything like Sprout Social or Hootsuite? Or is it just
I don't believe Sprout Social or Hootsuite has an integration, but I can double check for you. Most of the integrations are CRM driven. So it is all about like making sure the contact information in your CRM feeds through and the interactions feed back and forth. So like things like, opt-ins and subscribes and bounces are consistent across those environments.
When I send an email, can I get a URL for that email so I could then share that URL on my socials so people can view the email even if they didn't receive the email?
Absolutely. Let me pull this back up. You guys can.
So
still
that could be
see
a
my
good practice,
screen,
Jason,
right?
is like you send it out to your database and then you grab the URL for the sent email, where you can click like view in browser, and then you can use that URL for social posts to get additional
You can
traffic or
actually,
eyes on it.
yeah, anytime you're building an email and you click that share, you can do copy link. This generates like a URL specifically for the email so that you're able to do things exactly like you're saying. You can plug it into a plain text email, or you could put it into Sprout Social, or if you were texting and you wanted to include a link to like a newsletter, you could do that as well. That's another use case I've seen happen.
okay, I appreciate
This doesn't go to Sprout Social, but it does let you send directly to your socials. So that's another tool that you can use as far as putting, and you can preview. I know we didn't really talk about this, but you can preview what you build by clicking View Preview. It shows you how it looks on computer and mobile, so that you know ahead of time what it looks like.
Cool.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kelly. It was great to have you with us in rooms today. I think we got a lot of really great information that, Jason can take back with him. And anybody who is rewatching this recording back can utilize ActivePipe in a lot of different ways. I learned a lot about. I'm like, should I start an email just so I could use ActivePipe? I don't know. But I appreciate.
But you could use ActivePipe to send your Radius Room emails if you wanted to.
That's what I'm saying. So. Maybe I need to pitch that at our next meeting. But I appreciate everyone's time today. We do have these rooms throughout the month, and so I appreciate everyone's time, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Thanks,
Thanks,
Hila.
Hila. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much.